Commander Jake Morrison walked through the metal corridors deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. His boots made soft sounds on the polished floor as he headed to the war room. The air smelled like ozone and electronics. Red lights blinked along the walls, casting strange shadows in the darkness. He had been waiting for this day for 15 years. Every morning, he woke up wondering if today would be the day the secret came out, the day humanity would stop pretending to be weak and helpless. The elevator dropped him down another 1,000 feet. When the doors opened, he stepped into a room the size of a football stadium. Holographic displays filled the air, showing star maps and ship positions. Hundreds of people in dark uniforms worked at control stations. Their faces glowed blue from the screens. Admiral Lisa Kane stood in the center of it all. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. When she saw Morrison, she nodded toward a private briefing room. "They're coming," she said as soon as the door closed. "The Zephyrin Collective sent their final message an hour ago. We have 72 hours to surrender, or they will destroy every city on Earth." Morrison felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his face calm. How many ships? 2,000 warships. Their entire battle fleet. Kane touched a button on the table. A hologram appeared, showing massive alien vessels shaped like dark pyramids. "They think we're still using chemical rockets and nuclear bombs." Morrison almost smiled. The aliens had no idea what was coming. "Admiral, permission to activate the fleet?" Kane stared at the alien ships for a long moment. "Jake, once we do this, there's no going back. The whole galaxy will know what we really are." "Ma'am, we've been preparing for this moment since 1947, since the first crash in Roswell. We spent 80 years building and hiding and learning. It's time." The Admiral pressed her hand against the scanner. A green light flashed, and alarms began to sound throughout the base. "All stations, this is Admiral Kane. Operation Revelation is now active. Repeat, Operation Revelation is active." Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. Somewhere above them, normal people were going about their daily lives. They had no idea that their planet had been building the most powerful military force in the galaxy. The main screen changed to show Earth from space. It looked peaceful and blue, with white clouds swirling over the continents. But Morrison knew better. Hidden in the asteroid belt were 47 massive warships. Secret bases on the dark side of the moon held thousands of fighter craft. Manufacturing facilities throughout the solar system have been working for decades to build weapons that could crack planets in half. "Tell me about the fleet's status," Kane said to a young officer at a nearby station. Lieutenant Amy Rogers turned from her console. "All shadow vessels report ready, Admiral. The stealth fields are holding perfectly. The alien scouts have passed within 1,000 kilometers of our ships without detecting them." Morrison nodded. Human stealth technology was based on alien science, but improved far beyond what the original builders thought possible. Earth ships could hide in plain sight, invisible to every sense of the galaxy knew about. "What about the Gate Project?" Kane asked. Dr. Nathan Pierce stepped forward from the back of the room. He was a thin man with wild hair and excited eyes. "The Shadow Gate is ready for activation, Admiral. We've been running simulations for 5 years. The power requirements are massive, but we can do it." Kane looked at Morrison. "Explain to me again why we need to open that thing." Morrison called up a new hologram. It showed a massive ring-shaped structure floating in space, covered in strange symbols that seemed to move and shift when you looked at them. "The aliens have been looking for these gates for thousands of years, Admiral. Every species in the galaxy knows the legends. The architects built them before they vanished, but nobody has ever figured out how to turn them on. We cracked the code." "And why does that matter?" Dr. Pierce spoke up. "Because there are hundreds of these gates scattered across the galaxy. Maybe thousands. If we control them, we control travel between the stars. We control trade, communication, everything." Kane was quiet for a long moment. Outside the base, the world continued as normal. People went to work. Children played in parks, and nobody knew that alien warships were racing toward Earth at faster-than-light speeds. "There's something else," Morrison said quietly. "Something we discovered in the architect ruins on Kepler 442b. The gates aren't just for travel. Their weapons, planet-killing weapons. The room went silent. The architects didn't just disappear, Admiral. They were fighting something. Something so dangerous that they built these gates as a last resort. And according to our translations, that something is still out there, waiting behind locked doors we're about to open. Kane looked at the star maps floating around them. Somewhere in that vast darkness, alien fleets were preparing to destroy humanity. And somewhere else, in dimensions they barely understood, ancient horrors waited for someone to be foolish enough to let them out. Jake, are we making the right choice? Morrison thought about his daughter, sleeping safely in her bed 1,000 miles away. He thought about every human child who deserved a chance to grow up and see the stars. We don't have a choice anymore, Admiral. The galaxy thinks we're weak. They think Earth is easy prey. It's time to show them what humans are really capable of. Kane pressed another button. Across the solar system, secret bases began powering up weapons that could shatter moons. Hidden shipyards released vessels that had never seen sunlight. And deep in space, ancient gates started to hum with power that hadn't flowed through them for 3 million years. The secret was out. Humanity was no longer pretending to be helpless. Morrison watched the displays change as their hidden fleet began to move. Soon, the aliens would learn what every human child knew from fairy tales. Sometimes the smallest, weakest-looking creature turns out to be the most dangerous thing in the forest. The war for Earth was about to begin, but it wouldn't be the war anyone expected. Captain Ryan Torres felt the deck plates vibrate under his feet as the Leviathan came to life. The massive ship had been sleeping in the asteroid belt for 12 years, hidden among the space rocks like a metal whale. Now her engines were waking up, and the sound was like thunder in the darkness. "All stations report ready, Captain," said his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos. She was from Mexico originally, but like most of the Secret Fleet personnel, her record said she died in a training accident years ago. That was how they kept the fleet hidden. Dead people couldn't talk. Torres walked to the main view screen. Outside, he could see other ships powering up their engines. The Rocky Mountain, a battleship the size of a city block. The Storm Rider, built for speed and stealth. The Hammer of God, whose main gun could punch through a planet's crust. 47 capital ships, 300 destroyers, over 1,000 fighter craft, all built in secret, all waiting for this moment. "Maria, show me the enemy fleet." The screen changed to show the Zephyrian warships approaching Earth. They moved in perfect formation, dark pyramids against the stars. Each one was the size of a mountain, bristling with weapons that could turn continents to glass. "They're impressive," Santos said, "but they're using technology from 200 years ago." Torres smiled grimly. The aliens thought they were advanced, but humanity had been stealing their secrets and improving on them since before his grandfather was born. Every crashed ship, every captured piece of equipment, every alien prisoner had taught them something new. "Captain, incoming message from Admiral Kane." The Admiral's face appeared on a smaller screen. Behind her, Torres could see the war room bustling with activity. "Ryan, you're cleared for Phase 1. Take the fleet to intercept position and wait for my signal. Remember, we want them to see what we can do, but not everything we can do." "Understood, Admiral. What about the special weapons?" "Not yet. Let them think our regular ships are impressive first. Save the reality benders for when we really need them." Torres nodded. The fleet had weapons that worked by changing the laws of physics in small areas of space. Gravity bombs that could turn a star inside out. Time dilators that could age enemy ships 1,000 years in a few seconds. But those were for emergencies only. Across the asteroid belt, human ships began to move. They accelerated smoothly, without the violent thrust that alien ships needed. Human engines tapped into the quantum vacuum itself, drawing power from the space between atoms. Lieutenant Colonel Alex Cooper's voice came over the radio from his fighter squadron. "Shadow Leader to Fleet Command. Phantom Squadron is ready for dimensional insertion." Torres shook his head in amazement. Cooper and his pilots flew ships that could phase shift through solid matter. They could fly through the middle of an enemy battleship and fire weapons from inside the hull. The aliens didn't even have theories for how that was possible. "All ships, this is Captain Torres. We've been preparing for this day our entire lives. Some of you were born in the secret colonies on Titan. Some of you grew up in the hidden bases under Mars. All of you know what's at stake." He paused, looking at his crew. Santos had 3 children she hadn't seen in 5 years, because everyone thought she was dead. Chief Engineer Bobby Clark had volunteered to fake his own death after his wife died of cancer, because he had nothing left to lose except the human race. The aliens think Earth is weak. They think we're just another primitive planet they can conquer and strip for resources. They're about to learn that humans don't give up. We don't surrender. And we definitely don't go quietly. The fleet moved into formation. Human tactics were different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Where alien fleets fought in rigid patterns, human ships moved like schools of fish, flowing around obstacles and striking from unexpected angles. Dr. Nathan Pierce's voice came over the fleet-wide channel from his research ship, the Discovery. "All ships, be advised. Long-range sensors are detecting something interesting. The Zephyrians aren't alone out there." Torres frowned. "Explain, Doctor." "There are other ships following behind the main fleet. Different design, different energy signatures. I'm reading at least 12 different alien species in that formation. It looks like they've formed some kind of alliance against us." Santos whistled softly. "The whole galaxy is coming to Earth's party." "Good," Torres said. "Let them all come. Let them see what happens when they threaten humanity." The hidden shipyards throughout the solar system were already building more vessels. Automated factories on the moons of Jupiter worked around the clock, turning out weapons and ships at a rate that would have seemed impossible to alien engineers. But humans had always been good at mass production. Lieutenant Victoria Hayes, the fleet psychic specialist, looked up from her station with concern. "Captain, I'm getting some strange readings from the Shadow Gate. Dr. Pierce's team has it powered up and ready, but there's something else. Something on the other side is aware of us." Torres felt a chill. The Shadow Gates were humanity's secret weapon, but they were also the most dangerous things they'd ever discovered. According to the architect records, the gates led to other dimensions, other realities, and some of those realities held things that were better left alone. "How long until the aliens reach Earth?" he asked. 43 hours, 17 minutes, Santos replied. "And how long until we're in position to intercept them?" 6 hours. Torres nodded. That gave them plenty of time to set up the surprise. The aliens expected to find Earth defended by a few primitive satellites and maybe some chemical rockets. Instead, they would face the most advanced military force in the galaxy. But even as he felt confident about the coming battle, Torres couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important. The architects had built the Shadow Gates for a reason. They had fought some terrible war before disappearing. And according to the alien legends, the architect had been the most powerful species the galaxy had ever known. If something had been strong enough to threaten them, what chance did humanity have? "Captain," Hayes said quietly, "there's something else. The psychic readings from the gate are getting stronger. Whatever's on the other side, it knows we're here, and I think it's been waiting for us." Torres stared out at the stars, where enemy fleets were racing toward his home world. Behind him, ancient weapons were powering up for the first time in millions of years. And somewhere in the darkness between dimensions, something vast and hungry was stirring. The real war was about to begin. High Commander Vextal of the Zephyrian Collective stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Worldbreaker. Through the massive viewports, he could see the small blue planet that was about to become another conquered world in their growing empire. "Pathetic," he said to his second-in-command. "Look at it, Korthax. No orbital defenses. No energy shields, no battle stations, just a primitive world that thinks it can resist the collective." Korthax, a reptilian creature with glowing yellow eyes, nodded in agreement. "Our scouts report they still use chemical rockets. High Commander, their most advanced weapons are fusion bombs. This will be over in hours." Vextal activated the communication array. His message would be broadcast to every radio and television station on Earth. "Humans of the third planet, this is High Commander Vextal. You have refused our generous offer of peaceful surrender. Now you will face the consequences." He cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. Begin the bombardment. Target their major cities first. Leave some survivors so they can serve as slaves in our mining operations. The weapons officer hesitated. Sir, we're receiving some strange readings. There appear to be objects moving in the asteroid belt. Asteroids move, you fool. Begin firing. But before the weapons could charge up, alarms started screaming throughout the Zephyrian fleet. Ships appeared out of nowhere, materializing from empty space like ghosts becoming solid. Captain Amy Rogers, commanding the human battleship Defiance, smiled as her ship decloaked directly above the alien flagship. The Defiance was half the size of the Worldbreaker, but she was built using technology the aliens had never imagined. All human ships, this is Captain Rogers. You may fire when ready. The first volley was more of a demonstration than an attack. Human weapons didn't use crude explosives or energy beams. They fired projectiles that moved faster than light, bending space around themselves. They hit with surgical precision, taking out specific systems without damaging the ships themselves. Within seconds, the Worldbreaker's weapons were offline. Its engines were dead. Its communications were cut. The massive warship drifted helplessly, completely disabled but with its crew unharmed. Vextal stared in shock as similar attacks struck ships throughout his fleet. These weren't the primitive humans his intelligence reports had described. These were warriors using technology that surpassed anything the Collective possessed. How is this possible, he whispered. On Earth. In the underground command center, Admiral Kane watched the battle unfold on the main display. The alien fleet outnumbered them 4-1, but they might as well have been fighting with sticks and stones. Jake, our boys are making this look easy, she said to Commander Morrison. That's the idea, Admiral. We want them scared, but not so scared they run away and tell the whole galaxy about us. Not yet. Lieutenant Colonel Cooper's fighter squadron phased to the hull of an alien cruiser, appearing inside the ship's bridge. The alien crew fell unconscious as human stun weapons filled the air with harmless but effective energy pulses. Shadow Leader to Fleet Command, Cooper reported. We've captured another command crew. These guys have never seen phase shift technology before. They think we're using some kind of magic. Rogers maneuvered the Defiance around the disabled alien flagship. Her ship moved with impossible grace, turning and spinning without the jerky movements that normal physics would require. This is Captain Rogers to the alien fleet. You came here expecting to fight primitives. Instead, you've discovered something you didn't know existed. Humans who have been watching you, learning from you, and preparing for you. Vextal managed to activate an emergency communicator. You cannot be humans. Humans are barely capable of spaceflight. That's what we wanted you to think, Rogers replied. For 80 years, we've been letting you believe we were weak and helpless. We crashed on our own ships and let you think you were superior. We let your scouts see our primitive rockets while hiding our real ships. We played the part of the primitive species, so well that even we almost believed it sometimes. Throughout the alien fleet, boarding parties of human marines were taking control of key ships. They moved through the vessels like they knew every corridor and every room, because they did. Human intelligence had been studying alien ship designs for decades. Dr. Pierce, monitoring the battle from his research vessel, made an interesting discovery. Admiral Kane, you need to hear this. I'm intercepting alien communications. They're not just Zephyrians. There are 12 different species in that fleet, all working together. Kane frowned. That's unusual. Most alien species can barely stand each other. It gets worse, Admiral. From what I can translate, they formed this alliance specifically to attack Earth. Someone told them we were a threat. Morrison felt a chill. Someone who knows the truth about us. The battle was winding down. Of the 2,000 alien ships, half were disabled and drifting. The other half had surrendered rather than face the mysterious human weapons. Not a single human ship had been seriously damaged. Vextal found himself face-to-face with Captain Rogers as human soldiers escorted him to a conference room aboard the Defiance. She was smaller than he expected, a young woman with calm eyes and steady hands. "You're going to kill us," he said. "No," Rogers replied. We're going to let you live. We're going to repair your ships and send you home. And you're going to tell everyone in the galaxy exactly what happened here. Why would you do that? Roger smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Because we want them to know. We want every species in the galaxy to understand that Earth is not what it appears to be. We want them to think very carefully before they threaten us again. She gestured toward the viewport, where damaged alien ships were being towed by human vessels. But we also want them to know that we could have destroyed all of you in minutes. We chose not to. Remember that. Back on Earth, children played in parks and adults went to work, completely unaware that the most one-sided space battle in galactic history had just taken place above their heads. The secret was still safe, at least from humanity. But across the stars, alien governments were about to receive some very disturbing reports. The primitives of Earth had revealed themselves to be something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. And in the deep reaches of space, near the Shadow Gate that Dr. Pierce's team had almost finished repairing, something ancient stirred in response to the battle. The gates were designed to respond to conflict, to open when great powers clashed. Soon, they would open to reveal what the architects had been hiding from the galaxy for 3 million years. The deception was over. The real war was about to begin. Dr. Susan Walsh stood in the excavation site on Kepler, 442b, staring at symbols that had been carved into alien metal 3 million years ago. The ruins stretched for miles in every direction, a city built by the mysterious architects before they vanished from the galaxy. Professor Walsh called Major Peter Stone from across the dig site. You need to see this. Stone was a military leader of the expedition, a tough soldier who had spent 5 years helping scientists uncover architect secrets on a dozen different worlds. But even he sounded excited now. Walsh climbed down into the newly opened chamber. The walls were covered with the flowing organic symbols that the architects used for writing. But these symbols were different. They moved and shifted like they were alive. The translation computer has been working on these for 3 hours, Stone said. What it's found is incredible. Walsh activated her portable translator, a device that had taken humanity 40 years to develop. The architect language was unlike anything else in the galaxy. It wasn't just words and sentences. It was mathematics and music and pure thought all combined into one form of communication. Slowly, the symbols on the wall began to make sense. We are the architects, builders of gates and guardians of reality. If you can read this message, then our long vigil is ending and the responsibility passes to you. The shadow gates are not just doorways between stars. They are locks, and what they lock away must never be freed. Walsh felt her heart racing. The shadow gates were humanity's greatest discovery, the key to controlling travel across the galaxy. But according to this message, they were also prisons. Keep translating, she told the computer. We came from beyond the galaxy, fleeing an enemy that devours stars and corrupts space itself. They are called the Devourers, and they turn entire solar systems into feeding grounds for their young. We built the gates to trap them in dimensions where they could not reach living worlds. The symbols continue to shift and change, telling a story of cosmic war. But the Devourers learn to influence minds across dimensional barriers. They can speak to species that have the right kind of consciousness, promising them power and knowledge in exchange for freedom. They will try to convince your people to open the gates. Do not listen. Do not trust them. Do not let them out. Walsh stepped back from the wall, her mind reeling. On Earth, Dr. Pierce's team was preparing to activate the first Shadow Gate in millions of years. They thought it would give humanity control over galactic civilization. Instead, they might be about to release something that could destroy the entire galaxy. Major, we need to contact Earth immediately. The quantum communicator is online, Professor. But there's a problem. The message isn't finished. The symbols were still moving, still changing. More text appeared. If the gates are opening, then one of 3 things has happened. Either we have returned from our long journey, or we have been destroyed, and someone else has learned to activate our technology, or the Devourers have found a way to influence events from their prison. If it is the second or third option, then you must be prepared to make the same sacrifice we made. What sacrifice? Walsh whispered. The answer appeared on the wall like words written in fire. The gates can be permanently sealed, but only by someone who has bonded their consciousness to the control system. The process will destroy the volunteer's mind, but it will lock the doors forever. We chose 12 of our greatest heroes to become eternal guardians. Now you must choose as well. Stone activated his communicator. Earth Command, this is Kepler Base. We have urgent information about the Shadowgate project. Priority Alpha. While they waited for the connection, Walsh studied more of the symbols. The architects have been incredibly advanced, but they had also been desperate. Their entire civilization had been built around containing the Devourers. Everything they created, every piece of technology, every city and ship, was designed with one purpose: keeping the enemy locked away. Admiral Kane's voice crackled over the communicator. "Susan, what have you found?" "Admiral, you need to stop the gate activation immediately. The shadow gates aren't what we thought they were." Walsh explained everything they had discovered. As she talked, she could hear the silence on the other end of the communication growing more and more tense. "Are you telling me," Kane finally said, "that we're about to release some kind of galaxy-destroying monsters?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you, Admiral." But it was too late. Another voice broke into the communication. Dr. Pierce calling from his research ship near the gate. "Admiral, we have a problem. The gate is activating on its own. We're not controlling it anymore." Through the speakers, they could hear alarms blaring and people shouting. The massive shadow gate was coming to life, drawing power from sources that human science couldn't explain. "Something's coming through." Pierce shouted. "Ships, massive ships." Walsh looked at the symbols on the architect wall. New text was appearing, glowing brighter than the rest. "If you are reading this message while the gates are opening without your control, then the Devourers have found a way to escape their prison. They have waited patiently for millions of years, influencing the dreams of sleeping minds, guiding the evolution of consciousness toward the moment when someone would be foolish enough to set them free." Major Stone grabbed Walsh's arm. "Professor, look at this." He pointed to a section of the wall they hadn't noticed before. It showed a star map of the galaxy, with Earth clearly marked. Around Earth were symbols that the computer translated as the Chosen Ones and Inheritors of the Burden. The architects didn't just disappear, Walsh realized. They chose Earth. They guided human evolution, helped us develop the right kind of consciousness to operate their technology. We weren't meant to find the gates by accident. We were created to be their replacements. The communication from Earth was getting worse. Pierce's voice came through in broken fragments. Massive energy readings. Ships the size of moons. They're not responding to any signals. "Admiral, these things are heading straight for populated systems." Walsh read the final message on the architect wall. "To the Inheritors, you have the strength to succeed where we failed. You have the creativity to find solutions we could not imagine. And you have something we lost in our long war, the ability to work together instead of standing alone. The gates are your responsibility now. Use them wisely or watch the galaxy burn." The ruins around them began to glow with the same energy that powered the shadow gates. The architect city was waking up after 3 million years of sleep, responding to the crisis that was unfolding across the galaxy. "Major," Walsh said quietly, "I think we're about to become the most important archaeological site in human history." Stone looked at the activated ruins, then at his communicator, where reports of the emerging Devourer fleet were still coming in. "Professor, I think we're about to become something a lot more important than that. I think we just became humanity's only hope of survival. The Shadow Gate was open. The Devourers were free. And somewhere in the ancient ruins of Kepler, 442b, the tools to fight them were waiting to be discovered." Admiral Lisa Kane stood in the command center, watching 12 human dreadnoughts position themselves around the Shadow Gate in the Vega system. Each ship was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. But today, they weren't here to fight. They were here to power the most dangerous experiment in human history. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Commander Morrison from his flagship, the Sovereign. "We're detecting massive energy buildup in the gate structure. Whatever's happening, it's happening fast." Kane looked at the main display. The Shadow Gate was a ring of dark metal 20 kilometers across, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. It had been floating in space for millions of years, cold and dead. Now it was warming up, drawing power from dimensions that human science barely understood. Dr. Pierce's voice came over the communication system from his research vessel. "Admiral, the gate is responding to our presence, but not in the way we expected. It's like it's been waiting for us specifically. The power readings are off the charts." Lieutenant Victoria Hayes, the fleet psychic specialist, was aboard the Sovereign with Morrison. She had volunteered to link her mind directly to the architect control systems, even though nobody knew what that might do to her. "Victoria, are you ready?" Morrison asked. Hayes nodded, but her face was pale. She had been having strange dreams for weeks, dreams of vast, dark things moving through space between the stars. "I can feel something on the other side, Commander, something big, and it knows we're here." Kane made the hardest decision of her military career. "All ships, begin power transfer." "Victoria, initiate neural link." The 12 dreadnoughts unleashed their full power output, beams of pure energy flowing toward the Shadow Gate. The ancient structure absorbed the energy like a hungry animal, symbols along its surface beginning to glow with colors that didn't exist in normal space. Hayes placed her hands on a control interface that Dr. Pierce's team had built based on architect designs. The moment her skin touched the alien metal, her consciousness exploded outward across dimensions. She could see everything. The gate network stretching across the galaxy like a vast spiderweb, billions of sleeping gates, waiting to be awakened, and beyond them, in the dark spaces between dimensions, she could see the Devourers. They were nothing like the aliens humanity had met before. These weren't biological creatures or mechanical constructs. They were something else entirely, beings made of hunger and darkness that existed by consuming the life force of entire solar systems. "The link is established," she reported, her voice echoing strangely. "I can see the entire network. Admiral, there are gates everywhere. Thousands of them. Can you control them?" "Yes, but there's a problem. The Devourers aren't just waiting passively. They've been working for millions of years to weaken the barriers. Some of the gates are already partially open." The Shadow Gate in front of them began to spin, its massive ring rotating faster and faster. Space itself started to bend around it, creating a tunnel that led to impossible distances. Morrison watched the readings on his screens with growing alarm. "Admiral, we're detecting ships on the other side. Big ships." The first Devourer vessel came through the gate like a nightmare becoming real. It was the size of a moon, but it moved with organic fluidity. Its surface was covered in what looked like eyes, millions of them, all turning the focus on the human fleet. All ships battle stations. Kane ordered, but the human weapons had no effect. Energy beams passed through the Devourer's ship like it wasn't really there. Missiles exploded harmlessly against its hull. Even the reality-bending weapons that humanity had developed couldn't touch it. "It's not fully in our dimension," Hayes reported, her voice strained from maintaining the neural link. "It exists in multiple realities at once. Our weapons can only hit one dimension at a time." More Devourer ships began emerging from the gate. They came in different sizes and shapes, but all of them shared the same terrible wrongness. They were things that shouldn't exist in a universe where life was possible. "Victoria, can you close the gate?" "I'm trying, but they're fighting me. They have their own psychics. Admiral, things that used to be living creatures from 1,000 different species. They're all connected to some kind of hive mind." The lead Devourer ship sent a message, not through radio or any technology the humans recognized, but directly into their minds. The voice was like the sound of dying stars. "We are the Devourers. We have waited long for this moment. The architects locked us away, but we knew that eventually someone would be foolish enough to open the doors. You have given us freedom, and now you will give us your galaxy." Admiral Kane activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Kane. We've made a mistake, but we're going to fix it. Prepare for dimensional warfare protocols." Throughout the human fleet, ships began to shift their weapons to multi-dimensional configurations. It was experimental technology, barely tested, but it was their only hope of fighting enemies that existed in several realities at once. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Human ships phased in and out of normal space, firing weapons that bent the laws of physics. The Devourers responded with attacks that turned space itself into a weapon, creating zones where matter aged 1,000,000 years in seconds. "Admiral," Morrison reported, "we're holding them back, but more ships keep coming through the gate, and they're learning our tactics faster than we can adapt." Hayes screamed as the neural link burned through her mind. "They're trying to possess me. They want to use my connection to take control of the entire gate network." Kane realized they were out of options. The Devourers were too powerful, too alien, too experienced. Humanity's secret fleet was impressive, but these creatures had been perfecting warfare for millions of years. "Morrison, prepare Protocol Omega." "Admiral, that's our last resort. If we use those weapons, we might tear a hole in space itself. Better a hole in space than the entire galaxy turned into a feeding ground." Protocol Omega was humanity's most dangerous secret. Weapons that didn't just bend reality, but rewrote it entirely. They had been built as a last resort against any enemy that threatened Earth's existence. But before Kane could give the final order, something unexpected happened. The other alien species that had come to attack Earth, the Zephyrians, the Andromedans, all the rest, suddenly appeared at the edge of the battle zone. High Commander Vextal's voice came over the communication system. "Humans of Earth, we request permission to join your battle. These creatures threaten all life in the galaxy." Kane almost smiled despite the desperate situation. Permission granted. Welcome to the war for reality itself. The combined fleet of former enemies and new allies threw themselves against the Devourer's ships. For the first time in millions of years, the ancient destroyers faced united resistance from the galaxy's living species. But even united, they were barely holding the line. More gates were opening throughout the galaxy as the Devourers activated their network. Soon, the entire universe would be at war. Hayes, still connected to the gate control system, made a discovery that changed everything. "Admiral, I found something. The architects left us a message. A way to turn the gates into weapons against the Devourers themselves. What do we need to do? We need to link all the gates together and overload the entire network. It will destroy the gates forever, but it will trap the Devourers in the spaces between dimensions." Kane looked at the battle raging around them. Dozens of ships, human and alien, were being destroyed by enemies that treated entire fleets as minor obstacles. "Do it." Captain Ryan Torres watched in horror as the first Devourer scout ships emerged from the Shadow Gate. The Leviathan sensors couldn't make sense of what they were seeing. The enemy vessels were the size of small moons, but they moved like living creatures, twisting and flowing through space in ways that hurt to watch. "Chief Santos, what are our weapons doing to them?" Maria Santos shook her head, staring at her console in disbelief. "Nothing, Captain. Our most powerful cannons are hitting them dead on, but the energy just passes through. It's like they're not completely in our reality." Throughout the human fleet, the same reports came in. Weapons that could shatter planets had no effect on the Devourer's ships. Even the experimental reality-bending devices that humanity had developed in secret couldn't touch these ancient horrors. Lieutenant Colonel Cooper's fighter squadron tried to use their phase shift technology to attack the enemies from within, but something went wrong. Shadow leader to Fleet Command, Cooper's voice was filled with panic. "We can't phase through their hulls. There's something inside those ships that's interfering with our dimensional drives." Torres realized with growing dread that humanity's greatest advantages were useless against these enemies. The Devourers have been fighting wars in multiple dimensions for millions of years. Every trick the human fleet could perform, they had seen before. "Captain," Hayes called out from her position linked to the gate controls, "I'm getting psychic readings from the Devourer's ships. They're not just vessels. They're alive. The entire ship is a single organism, and each one contains thousands of enslaved minds from conquered species." The truth hit Torres like a physical blow. These weren't just alien warships. They were prisons, floating torture chambers where entire civilizations have been kept alive to serve as living batteries for the Devourer's power. A new voice entered his mind, cold and ancient beyond human understanding. We are the children of entropy. We are the end of all stories. Your species shows promise. Humans, your minds burn bright with creativity and defiance. You will make excellent slaves. General Marcus Webb's voice came over the fleet communication system from his command ship, the Battlestar. All ships, this is Webb. I'm authorizing Protocol Omega. Deploy the dimensional weapons. Torres felt his blood run cold. Protocol Omega was the most classified project in human history. Weapons that didn't just destroy matter and energy, but attacked the fundamental structure of reality itself. They had been built as a final option against any threat that could destroy humanity. Sir, Santos said quietly, if we use those weapons, we might tear holes in space that we can't close. Chief, look around us. If we don't use them, there won't be anyone left to worry about holes in space. The human fleet began deploying weapons that existed only in theoretical physics textbooks. Reality bombs that could erase matter from existence. Time dilators that age targets thousands of years in seconds. Probability cannons that made it mathematically impossible for enemy ships to continue existing. For the first time since emerging from the Shadow Gate, the Devourers seemed to feel the attacks. Their massive ships shuddered and twisted as human weapons reached across dimensions to strike them. But the victory was temporary. The Devourers adapted quickly, changing their dimensional frequency to avoid the worst effects of the human weapons. And worse, they were learning. Every attack humanity made was being studied and countered. They're analyzing our technology in real time. Dr. Pierce reported from his research ship. Their learning rate is incredible. They're adapting to our weapons faster than we can modify them. Torres watched as more Devourer ships poured through the gate. Each wave was larger than the last, and they were bringing new types of vessels. Some looked like organic citadels, covered in weapon batteries that fired pure darkness. Others resembled metallic hurricanes, spinning masses of teeth and claws that devoured everything in their path. Fleet Command, this is Captain Amy Rogers aboard the Defiance. We've got a big problem. Long-range sensors are detecting similar gates opening throughout the galaxy. This isn't just one battle anymore. It's an invasion of everything. The tactical displays showed the scope of the disaster. Gates were activating near major population centers across dozens of star systems. The Andromedans were reporting Devourer ships attacking their home worlds. The Zephyrian Collective's battle fleet was being overwhelmed near their capital system. High Commander Vextal's voice came over an emergency channel. Human Admiral Kane, this is Vextal. I formally request military alliance. These creatures threaten all life in the galaxy. Our previous conflicts are meaningless compared to this threat. Similar messages came from every major species in known space. The Crystalline Federation, the Hive Worlds, the Machine Consciousness. Even the isolationist Watchers were requesting human assistance. Admiral Kane's response was broadcast to the entire galaxy. All species, this is Admiral Kane of Earth. The gates were built to contain these creatures, but we accidentally opened them. It's our responsibility to fix this. Any species willing to fight alongside us is welcome. Any species that wants to surrender to these things is free to try, but I don't think they're interested in prisoners. Torres watched as alien fleets began arriving at their position. Ships he had been prepared to fight hours ago were now positioning themselves as allies. The irony wasn't lost on him. Humanity had revealed their secret fleet to fight other alien species. Now they were all united against something far worse. The combined fleet was impressive. Over 5,000 ships from dozens of different species, representing every major military power in the galaxy. But even united, they were barely slowing down the Devourer advance. Captain, Hayes said, her voice strained from maintaining her mental link to the gate systems, I'm getting readings from the other gates. The Devourers aren't just invading our galaxy. They're using the network to invade other galaxies too. This is happening everywhere. The scope of the disaster became clear. The Shadowgate network wasn't limited to one galaxy. It connected to other galaxies, other dimensions, other realities. The architects had built a transportation system that spanned the entire universe, and the Devourers were using it to spread their hunger everywhere that life existed. Sir, Santos said quietly, our ammunition reserves are down to 40%. The reality weapons require an enormous amount of energy, and we can't maintain this rate of fire much longer. Torres realized that the combined galactic fleet was losing. The Devourers had infinite reinforcements pouring through gates across the universe. They had billions of years of combat experience, and they were fighting on multiple dimensional levels simultaneously. All ships, this is Captain Torres. I'm reading massive energy buildup near the primary gate. Something big is coming through. What emerged from the Shadow Gate was beyond anything they had seen before. It was a Devourer ship the size of a small planet, covered in structures that looked like cities and weapons the size of mountain ranges. As it moved through space, stars dimmed in its presence. The thing spoke directly into every mind in the fleet simultaneously. We are the first hunger, oldest of our kind. We devour the galaxy that birthed us before your son was born. We have waited patiently in the spaces between realities, dreaming of the day we could feed again. Your architects delayed us, but they could not stop us. Nothing can stop hunger itself. Torres looked at his crew, at the readings showing Devourer fleets overwhelming defenses across the galaxy, at the combined forces of dozens of species fighting desperately against impossible odds. Chief Santos, how long until our backup fleets arrive? The Mars shipyard are launching everything they have, but it will take 6 hours to reach us. We don't have 6 hours. Torres activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, human and alien. This is Captain Torres of the Leviathan. We came out here to activate a gate that we thought would give us control over the galaxy. Instead, we open a door that might destroy the universe. But we're still here. We're still fighting. And we're going to find a way to fix this. He looked at the massive Devourer ship approaching their position, its weapons charging with power that could vaporize entire fleets. Because that's what humans do. We break things, and then we figure out how to fix them. High Ambassador Carol Jensen stood in the main conference room of the diplomatic vessel Harmony, looking at the representatives of 13 different alien species. A week ago, these beings had been planning to invade Earth. Now they were begging for humanity's help to save the galaxy. The situation is worse than we initially calculated, she told the assembled delegates. Devourer fleets have overrun 47 star systems in the past 6 days. Our combined forces are slowing them down, but we're not stopping them. High Commander Vextal of the Zephyrian Collective leaned forward, his reptilian features showing something Jensen had never seen before: fear. Ambassador Jensen, our home world fell yesterday. 3 billion Zephyrians dead or enslaved in less than 12 hours. These creatures are not just conquering our worlds. They are consuming them entirely. The Andromedan representative, a crystalline being called Harmony of Lights, flicker with distressed colors. Our deep space sensors detect similar attacks occurring in the Magellanic Clouds and the Triangulum Galaxy. This is not a local phenomenon. The Devourers are active across the entire known universe. Jensen nodded grimly. The reports coming in from Earth's secret observation posts painted a picture of cosmic-scale destruction. Entire galactic civilizations were being devoured by creatures that treated solar systems like snack foods. Which brings us to why you're all here, Jensen said. Earth is prepared to share our most advanced military technology with any species willing to join a formal alliance against the Devourers. But the terms are non-negotiable. She activated a holographic display showing the proposed alliance structure. Earth will command all joint military operations. All participating species will contribute their full industrial capacity to the war effort. And most importantly, there will be no territorial disputes, no trade conflicts, and no political maneuvering until this threat is eliminated. The Hive Queen's mental voice resonated through the room. You ask us to surrender our sovereignty to a species we have never heard of until this week. I'm asking you to choose between your pride and your survival, Jensen replied. The Devourers don't care about your politics or your borders. They only care about feeding. Admiral Kane's face appeared on the main communication screen. Carol, I need to interrupt. We've got new intelligence from the Kepler site. Dr. Walsh appeared beside the Admiral, looking exhausted from days of nonstop research in the Architect ruins. Ambassador, we made a breakthrough. The Architects left detailed records of their war against the Devourers. They tried everything. superweapons, dimensional barriers, even evacuating entire galaxies. Nothing worked permanently. What finally stopped them? Jensen asked. They didn't stop them. They contained them. The Shadowgate network wasn't just built for transportation. It was designed as the largest prison in universe history. Every gate is both a doorway and a lock. The alien delegates murmured among themselves as the implications became clear. The architects sacrificed their entire civilization to build and maintain the containment system. Walsh continued. They spent millions of years feeding their life force into the gates to keep them sealed. When they finally died out, the system gradually weakened until someone could accidentally open it. Jensen felt a chill. Are you saying we need to sacrifice entire civilizations to stop these things? Not exactly. The architects were working alone. But according to their records, the containment system becomes exponentially more powerful when multiple species contribute to it. They theorized that a true galactic alliance could maintain the prison indefinitely without the massive sacrifices they made. High Commander Vextal stood up abruptly. You're asking us to become prison guards for the rest of eternity. I'm asking you to help us save a universe, Jensen replied. The architect's records are clear. The Devourers can't be destroyed, only contained. And containment requires willing cooperation from every major species in the galaxy. The Crystalline Federation's representative spoke in harmonious tones that translated to multiple languages simultaneously. What guarantees do we have that humans won't use this alliance to establish dominance over the rest of us? Jensen smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. You want guarantees? Look outside. Count the Devourer ships heading for your remaining worlds. That's your guarantee. Work with us, or watch everything you've ever built turn into food for cosmic horrors. Reports continued to stream in during the negotiations. The war was not going well. Even with humanity's advanced weapons and the combined fleets of dozens of species, they were losing ground every day. The Devourers learned too quickly, adapted too efficiently, and brought reinforcement from dimensions that didn't exist on any star chart. Ambassador! Came a new voice over the communication system. It was Captain Torres from the Leviathan. We're receiving surrender offers from some of the Devourer's ships. They claim they're willing to negotiate. Jensen exchanged glances with Admiral Kane. Captain, patch us through. The voice that came through the speakers was barely recognizable as having once been human. I was Rebecca Chun of the research vessel Newton. We were exploring the Crab Nebula when they found us. They don't kill you. They make you part of themselves. I can feel every Devourer ship in the fleet. I know their thoughts, their plans, their hunger. What do they want? Jensen asked. They want to make you an offer. Join them willingly, and they'll preserve your consciousness as part of their collective. Resist, and they'll take you anyway, but you'll spend eternity aware of being consumed over and over again. The communication cut off, leaving the conference room in silence. The Andromedan delegate flickered with angry red colors. Those are not negotiations. Those are threats. Exactly, Jensen said, which is why we need this alliance. The Devourers don't negotiate. They don't compromise. They don't show mercy. They are hunger given form and intelligence. Our only choice is to work together or be devoured separately. One by one, the alien representatives agreed to the alliance terms. Even the proud machine consciousness, which had never acknowledged organic species as equals, agreed to full cooperation. Excellent, Jensen said. Admiral Kane, you now have command of the largest military force in galactic history. What are your orders? Kane's image on the screen showed the determination that had made her Earth's greatest military leader. We're going to do something the architects never tried. We're not just going to contain the Devourers. We're going to trap them so permanently that no future accident can ever release them again. How? Dr. Walsh has found references to a master control system in the architect archives. Something that can link all the shadow gates across the entire universe into a single integrated prison. But activating it requires representatives from every sapient species in existence. Jensen looked at the alien delegates around the table. We have 13 species here. How many are there total? According to our estimates, Over 2,000 species have achieved spaceflight in this galaxy alone, and the Gate network connects to other galaxies where there might be millions more. The scope of the task was staggering. They needed to contact every intelligent species in the universe and convince them to join the Alliance. And they needed to do it while fighting a war against enemies that were consuming entire solar systems every day. We'll start with what we have, Jensen decided. Admiral, begin preparing the Master Gate activation sequence. I'll work on expanding the Alliance. And everyone pray to whatever god you believe in that we're not too late. Outside the diplomatic vessel, the combined fleet of the new Galactic Alliance moved into formation. Human ships flew alongside former enemies, their crews working together against a threat that made their previous conflict seem like children's games. But even this unprecedented cooperation might not be enough. The Devourers have been waiting for millions of years, and they were very, very hungry. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Sovereign, watching the largest fleet in the history of the universe assemble around him. Ships from over 300 different species filled space, as far as the sensors could reach. The Alliance that had started with 13 species had grown beyond anyone's wildest expectations. Final count, Admiral Kane? He asked through the communication system. Kane's voice came back from Earth's command center. 47,000 ships, Jake. Representatives from every major species in this galaxy, plus delegations from Andromeda and the Magellanic Clouds. Even the Watchers had come out of hiding. Morrison nodded, but his expression remained grim. Despite their numbers, the combined fleet was still losing the war. The Devourers had consumed over 200 star systems in the past month. Entire civilizations had been reduced to fuel for their advance across the galaxy. Dr. Pierce's voice joined the conversation from his research vessel. Commander, the Master Gate control system is ready for activation. But I have to warn you again, we're not entirely sure what will happen when we link every shadow gate in the universe together. Will it stop the Devourers? According to the Architect records, it will trap them permanently in dimensional spaces where they can't reach any living worlds. But the process requires someone to bond their consciousness permanently with the control system. Whoever volunteers won't be coming back. Morrison had known this moment would come. From the day he first learned about the Shadow Gates, he had understood that great power came with great responsibility. And sometimes responsibility meant sacrifice. I'll do it, he said simply. Jake, no. Admiral Kane's voice was sharp with emotion. We can find another way. Admiral, we've been looking for another way for weeks. The Architect records are clear. Someone has to become the permanent guardian of the Gate network. Someone has to take their place. Lieutenant Victoria Hayes, still connected to the Gate control systems, spoke up from her station. Commander, there might be another option. The Architects worked alone because they were the only species in their galaxy advanced enough to interface with their technology. But we have hundreds of species here. What if we shared the burden? Dr. Walsh's excited voice came through from the Kepler excavation site. Victoria's right. I've been studying the master control protocols. The system was designed to accept multiple consciousness inputs simultaneously. We could have representatives from every species contribute part of their mental energy to maintain the prison. Morrison felt a spark of hope. Would that work? In theory, yes. Instead of one person sacrificing everything, we could have thousands of people each contributing a small part of their consciousness. They would remain functional, but they would be permanently linked to the Gate network. The Andromedan representative, Harmony of Lights, flickered with excited colors aboard her ship. I volunteered to be part of the link. My species' crystalline consciousness is well suited for such connections. High Commander Vextal's voice joined in. The Zephyrian Collective offers 20 volunteers. We have psychics who have trained their entire lives for mental fusion. One by one, every species in the Alliance offer volunteers. The machine consciousness provided artificial intelligences that could maintain the connection indefinitely. The Hive Queens offered workers whose minds were already linked to collective consciousness. Even the mysterious Watchers emerged from their isolation to contribute their vast mental powers. All right, Morrison said, let's do this. The process took hours to coordinate. Representatives from each species had to synchronize their mental patterns with the ancient architect technology. Human psychics worked alongside alien telepaths to establish the necessary connections. Morrison found himself at the center of it all, his consciousness expanding to touch minds from across the galaxy. He could feel the crystalline thoughts of the Andromedans, the collective hum of the hive minds, the precise logic of the machine intelligences,